Hey guys, it's Paul once again with VHScollector.com, and this time I will be reviewing probably the most infamous, collectible, most sought after VHS tape at this time, and it is Tales from the Quadead Zone. I had just featured this in my VHS update. I recently got this as a birthday gift from my wonderful fiance. She also had gotten me my other rarest tape, which is Mom is Home, which I actually think is a little bit more rare than this, but yeah, this thing is so hard to get. I've seen this sell on eBay for $600 and $800 before, and she didn't pay nearly, not even half of that. She got a pretty good deal on it. I've always wondered what makes some of these tapes so sought after. I know the one previous to this, and I've said it before, previously to this, the grail of collecting was Last House on Dead End Street by Sun Video, and that was the top tape to collect or to find, and if you had it, you were at the top of your game. And now it's this one, Tales from the Quadead Zone. I think I have an idea why. While Last House on Dead End Street was the top tape, there was another tape everyone was looking for, and that was Black Devil Doll from Hell. It's hard to, not notice a title like Black Devil Doll from Hell. But with all that fame for that videotape, I think people discovered this tape just because it's directed by the same guy. The distributor is BC Video. I don't know what else they distributed. I don't know if it was just this film. This film was also released in a clamshell with, I think, the same cover art, if that's even legit. But there's also another image I saw online of another clamshell, which I would imagine has to be legit, although I haven't seen too many of those. But this is the one that I've always wanted, this slipcase. I'm not too thrilled about clamshells sometimes. If it's a super rare tape and it's on a clamshell, or in a clamshell, sometimes I worry that it might be a bootleg. It's easy to bootleg those. Even if the tape's original, the tape could be original all the way, but it's so easy to just photocopy a sleeve and put it into a clamshell, just too easy. It's a lot less likely that someone would bootleg a slipcase, just because the production for a slipcase just costs so much money these days, since no one's really making VHS anymore. The cover art is just as weird as the movie. You got this weird skull. It actually looks like it has hair on it. Inside the skull's mouth is one of the victims in the movie, and it reads, "Three tales of evil beyond belief." When the movie starts with the opening titles, it's all done on top of these really crudely drawn images or scenes from the movie done in crayon. It looks kind of awful, but the movie is so friggin' weird, and all these elements just come together to create this super weird, bizarre movie. And the music it feels like upbeat carnival music, but between it being a black movie and the weird music and the theme with the crayon drawings, it just comes together and makes a really strange film, really weird atmosphere. Now, this movie was made in 1987. Now, well, this was when the video was released, and you didn't see any black horror films, at least independent black horror films. What, Blackula? I mean, you had a whole ton of blaxploitation films, but you really didn't have too many independent shot of video black films just made straight from middle class, lower class people. You didn't see anything like that, especially in the horror genre. You don't even see big Hollywood black horror films from that time period. You just don't see it. That's what contributes to the weirdness of this movie. You just don't expect it. I actually enjoyed this movie just because it's the atmosphere. It's like all these different elements are like really weird, but they come together in such a way I can't describe, but I can connect to it. This movie's actually fun and interesting and weird. It has such an atmosphere that keeps me interested. It's almost like it's just like a morbid curiosity, I guess, that keeps you hooked. I've watched some awful, boring SOV films like Sledgehammer. I'm sorry, guys who like that movie, but it's slow and boring as hell. But this movie has so many weird elements that I'm just always interested in what's going to happen next. Now, the movie is not perfect, not by any means. The acting is what you expect from an SOV film. It's not that great, but I'm not, surprised. I expected that in this sort of film. The editing and stuff seem, it looks like Chester Turner put some effort into it, like this was his little, I guess, labor of love kind of film. There's some creative moments in it when he tries to depict ghosts in the movie with the technology that he had available to him. And let's just go into the story. I've just been rambling on about this movie. The movie starts with the mother in the kitchen. She's cooking or doing something, and we see cups floating in the air, and you see a chair move on its own, and she starts to talk to the ghost of her son, Bobby. He wants her to read him some stories from a book, and the book is huge. It's Tales from the Quadead Zone. He sits on the armchair, and you actually see the seat go down the armchair. It's kind of a weird concept, since I don't think ghosts have a weight. I mean, in a film like SOV film like this, no one goes to those kind of extents to try to make the cushion sink just to show that a ghost is sitting there. The character who plays his mother, there's something weird and special about her. She's kind of like dazed, but in an innocent way. Can't really describe her state of mind in this movie. You know, even though this is a SOV film, you can tell she truly has this love and affection towards this child that she's communicating with, this dead ghost. And every time the ghost speaks to her, it's this weird high-pitched whispering. This wind blows up into her face and her hair goes over, and she appears to be in this euphoric moment. It seems like just takes her into this special place when her son communicates with her, because she misses her son so much. She loves her son, so every time he communicates with her, it's this very spiritual moment for her.
Oh, you have a new book for Mommy to read.
Now, when he talks, like I said, it's just whispering, but it's not words. It's just like I don't know how to describe it. It's just not words. The movie is, you know, it's not done in a joking way. It feels like it was intended to be a serious movie, which makes the movie even more, I guess, more strange and more effective, at least for me, because they're not pulling out all these stupid jokes. It's not done in a tongue-in-cheek way, even though it comes off that way. It's hard to describe the overall feeling of this movie. But the first story she tells the son is about this redneck hillbilly family who has no money. There's 8 people around the table, and they all have to fight for these 4 sandwiches. So they say grace, and after grace is completed, only 4 of the people end up getting a sandwich because they all have to dive in and try to get the sandwiches. Redneck hillbilly gets pissed off he didn't get a sandwich, and he takes out a shotgun and kills a few people. And then it goes to the next night at dinner time, and I'm thinking that this is going to be great. So what's going to happen, at least in my mind, as each night moves on, one person's going to end up dying in this battle for these sandwiches. And I thought that was an interesting angle. I thought that would have been really cool, because you have all this tension building up to the last night with the last sandwich between 2 people, and they were going to battle out, and we were going to see what was going to happen. So I felt like that was the direction this little short story was going to go, and I thought it was going to be really interesting to just see the numbers of these family members drop down just from them killing each other over these sandwiches. But that doesn't happen. You get the one night of the big fat hillbilly in overalls shoot a few people, and then when it goes to the next night, the camera pans to each individual, and some text comes on the screen telling us what happened to them. 2 of them ends up in a witness protection program, and the hillbilly guy who shot a couple family members, he ended up gassed in a gas chamber, and that's pretty much it. And this whole first story is only about 11 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe not even. I was kind of taken back by that. I just not expected to be so short, and in many ways it feels like Chester Turner started shooting this segment, and he just kind of gave up halfway, or I don't know what happened, but instead of finishing it, he just put some title cards about what would have happened, what should have happened in the film. That's what it felt like. It probably been a lot better if it was completed, but I guess he, for whatever reason, couldn't complete it, maybe, or maybe he wanted it that way, which I couldn't agree with. And then it goes to the next story. These 2 brothers, one is dead, he's in a funeral parlor. The other brother, Ted I believe his name is, gets 2 of his buddies to go to the funeral parlor and steal the body. It's a little drawn out, but the weird bizarre music kind of makes it worth the journey. It takes them a while, like I said, to get down there. One of the friends pretends he's a dead body, and he spooks the other one, and eventually they do find the brother's body, and they take it back. The 3 friends, they joke around a little bit, and then one of them asks him, "Hey, what do you want that body for anyway?" Which I thought was kind of funny. Wouldn't that be the question you ask before you go with them to steal the body? Someone asks me to steal a body, I'll be like, wait, why? But it's funny because they actually ask him after the deed is already done. Oh, by the way, why did you want that? Why did you want your brother's dead body? And all he says is, for revenge. And the friend is like, oh, okay, like no big deal, and then they go home. It just seems so nonchalant about it. But when they leave, the brother, he starts to curse at the corpse and yell at it. It was so difficult to understand exactly what he was talking about, but from what I could gather, the dead brother did something to the other brother's wife, and she ended up killing herself. She left a note telling what that brother did to her, and he was responsible somehow for her committing suicide or something. So now he wants revenge. He takes his brother's naked body and dresses it up in a clown suit. You're gonna think that, with black Haitian culture, you think there's gonna be some voodoo practice or some curse or something on his soul. He dresses his brother up in a clown costume to bury him in the cellar. So freaking weird. Not what you would expect. Goes into the basement digging the grave for his brother, and the whole time, even when he's cursing at the brother, he's just laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing. It's such fake laughter, but the funny thing is that he just keeps laughing and laughing, just overdoes it, but it just contributes to the weirdness and the weird atmosphere and aura of this film. And then while he's digging the grave for his brother upstairs where the dead body is, they do this weird, this funny, primitive video effect to make it look like the brother's spirit is going back to the body. Even though it looks kind of cheesy, if you didn't have like a studio or something, it took some considerable effort to do that effect still. So kudos to Chester, and he certainly had a passion for this project, because if you were just making this movie to make a few bucks, you wouldn't go that far. The dead brother, now as a clown, wakes up, goes downstairs, and fights the brother. And when the clown talks to the brother, holding him by the neck, strangling him, his voice is very weird and bizarre, and it's really difficult to understand what he's saying. And from what I understand, he's saying, "You can't kill me. You can't kill me. I can't die." But they put such a weird effect on his voice. It's so strange. But the brother ends up dying with I think he gets pitchforked in the stomach. Now, there are no more stories from the book, sort of, in the movie. Now we're back to the mother and the ghost child. But this time her husband comes home, and he sees her with the book, and he's like, "What are you doing with this book?" And he kind of suspects what's going on. "You're reading stories to our dead son. You can't get over him." He takes the big, heavy, huge book and whacks her across the head with it like 20 times, and it's quite an intense moment, and this woman seems very innocent and harmless, and then you got this angry husband coming home and just smacking her in the head with this huge book. She starts to get pissed off, and then they start rolling in the kitchen for a while, and the fighting and the wrestling is so fake. Of course it's so fake, but it's so entertaining at the same time. Eventually she gets a knife and stabs him. As she stabs him, he's still standing, and she's like, "Come on, baby, dance with me, dance with me." So the whole time she's like holding him up as he's dying, kind of dancing around with him as he's dying with the blade still in his stomach. Really strange. She leaves him there to die, and he calls the police. She's like, "I can't leave Bobby here, I can't leave Bobby here." The cops are kind of confused. Who's Bobby? They look around, they don't see anybody. Who's Bobby? So she goes into the bathroom. They actually let her go into the bathroom, and there she just sits on the toilet with a razor blade. And then you get this really upbeat, strange carnival music, and as the music's playing, she's playing with the razor blade in her hand, contemplating suicide. We get these shots of her, or flashbacks of her with her son playing in the park. Yeah, call this a really crappy SOV film from '87 on a low budget. Call it what you like, but that was a pretty touching moment with that music and her contemplating suicide with a razor blade in her hand, and just seeing her have this great time with her kid, realize she wants to be with her son again. Nothing could ever match the moments she spent with her son while he was alive. After these flashbacks and everything, the music changes, and it just turns into a heavy heartbeat, makes everything quiet and intense, and you got the heartbeat going, and then you think she's gonna slit her wrists. She doesn't. She goes right for the jugular. She slits her own throat. Cops go in there, they're like, "Oh, we have a problem," and then she's dead. And then we get a shot of her spirit, and she goes to the son, and she's like, "Oh, I missed you so much," and Bobby's ghost is like, "I missed you too, Mommy," and she grabs him, and it's kind of touching. It's poorly done. It's not Hollywood material, but the theme is still there. It's kind of a touching moment. And then they both sit down, and she's about to read Bobby another story, and this time the story is called, I think, unseen vision, and pretty much she's retelling the story of a mother and a father and a son. Son name was Bobby. He died in a car accident, and she's pretty much telling the story of them, and that's it. The movie ends. I liked it. I didn't expect to like this movie, but I actually liked it. It's only about an hour long, which is all it had to be. Although, actually, it probably could have been a little bit longer if they made that first short story longer. And then, when the credits start to roll, it says, Tales from the Quadead Zone will be back, or will return, it says, which I thought was interesting. I guess there was he intended for there to be a sequel, which would have been really interesting. I would have liked to see that. It's a very charming movie, just because it feels very homemade, and I love when homemade amateur filmmakers put all their love and passion into this project, and they know they don't make money from these. You think he made money from this VHS release? He probably made a couple $100. These distributors steal all the money for themselves, unless you independently distribute your own movie. But like Don and Michelle, man, they stole all the money from those guys. They got a little something, but that was it. They do it because they love it, and they wanted to have some fun. Other people, like Nick Millard, will make a movie for money. This film shows a lot more passion and dedication than any of his films do, and nothing matches this movie. I'm not going to say it's a masterpiece or my favorite film, but it has an atmosphere that will never be matched, even if this movie was remade or something. It's just something very special on this cassette. Between the editing and the weird upbeat carnival music, it has a lot of weird sound effects, and just some of the imagery and the crayon drawings and the way ghosts speak in the film. It's just really strange, and I can't describe it. It's just from another friggin' dimension. But yeah, that's Tales from the Quadead Zone. Pretty much summed it up pretty well there, and I suggest anyone trying to watch it. I mean, it's kind of hard to find the VHS tape, but I'm sure you can find a bootleg somewhere. It's actually on YouTube, probably one of the top 5 rarest US tapes, and it's a pretty interesting movie, and I can see why it's sought after. Part of why these movies are so rare is it's not the movie itself usually. It's not. Think of it this way: the most expensive baseball card ever is not Babe Ruth. It's not Mickey Mantle. It's not one of these superstar legends of baseball. It's this nobody guy. The reason that baseball card is so valuable is because it's so rare and only few of them were ever made. Had nothing to do with who the card was of. Same thing with a lot of these movies. It don't matter what the movie is. But this film is actually, worth watching. There's a lot of rare tapes out there. There's a lot of rare ones that just are really awful movies. This one's actually something very special. It's hard to describe the atmosphere, but I don't know. It's one of those movies I think some people will get it and some people won't. I kind of get it, and I really enjoy it. Chester Turner, according to what I heard or read, died in a car crash like 10 or 15 years ago. Who knows what will ever happen to these films. So yeah, this has been Paul with another VHS review, and look out for more. And I guess that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and have a good night.